On my channel, the first video that I ever made was a video titled How to Fix the Liberator Carbine in Helldivers 2. And in this video, I completely slandered the Liberator Carbine. Basically, the gist of this video was that I claimed that it was bad because its fire rate was simply way too high. And because of that, it lost ammo really quickly, and it just kind of felt like you ran out of ammo. But I was also following a trend at the time where other content creators were absolutely hating on this weapon. Pretty much every single person that I saw on YouTube or Reddit or just anywhere Helldivers 2 related in the community, basically the common consensus was that this weapon was bad. But the funny thing is, not much about this weapon has changed since then, and holy crap were we wrong. This weapon is so freaking good against any faction you choose. I just did not know what I was sleeping on because I never tried it because of these creators basically saying, oh, don't take this weapon, it's F tier in comparison to other weapons. But when you compare it to itself and the Liberator, this gun feels amazing. And I'm gonna get into exactly why I feel this way. So the first thing I wanna talk about is the reason why I made that video in the first place. Because I'm gonna basically summarize it so you don't have to watch it, but if you want to, you can. But this is the gist of it. I felt like that the Liberator Carbine wasn't unique enough. That because it was just a side grade of the Liberator, and it only had a faster fire rate, it was basically identical in all other stats. So in this video, I said, this thing needs a grenade underbarrel. It runs out of ammo too quickly to justify bringing it, so put an attachment on it so that it launches a grenade, which was a really cool idea. I still love that idea, and I want to see primaries like this in the future, but honestly, the Liberator Carbine doesn't really need that anymore. I didn't really know how good it was until I played the Invasion for Super Earth and saw people bringing the Liberator Carbine every single mission. And so I was like, what's the deal? What's going on? Why are people bringing the Liberator Carbine? Is it really that good? I literally made a video about this saying, this thing is total crap. And then I go in and it's like, I try it, and similar to my last video, I started to understand what was going on. I realized that I had completely underestimated this gun, and that this thing wrecks everything. So the first thing that I want to talk about is its stats. Basically, it shares all the same stats with the regular Liberator, but the biggest difference is that it has a higher fire rate. This thing fires way, way, way faster than the Liberator. You can feel the difference almost immediately when you compare the two. And because of that, you do run more out of... I'm tripping over my words. You do run out of ammo more quickly, but you also have a higher DPS because you're shooting faster. There we go. That's the point. That's the video. You can leave now. But this is basically, there's so many other things that you can apply this to. That's basically the next point that I want to say. With this fire rate, I can just drag this out on and on, but I'm going to try and keep this short. The DPS makes it so that there are so much more situations where you actually get to kill your enemy that you're facing, where the Liberator would kind of slack up a bit and would not be able to kill it in enough time. Like, say, for example, the bots. If you aim at the heads, this thing is almost a near insta-kill when you hit the heads. But you can also shoot the legs or the pelvis or the arms, and it takes him out very quickly too. Ultimately, the only downside to bringing this weapon is that it's light armor penetration, which means that you can't kill gunships, stingrays, and you can't shoot the heads on the Illuminate Overseers. But it also means that you can't really kill tanks or any other thing that has medium armor or higher. So it limits your options on what you can kill, but it absolutely wrecks everything underneath that. You actually do feel different with this weapon. And I used to play a bunch of medium penetrating weapons, and in my experience, a lot of medium penetration is slow, clunky, kind of hard to aim, and very short on ammo. I feel like I run out of ammo a lot. But this weapon, even with its fast fire rate and that you also do kind of run out of ammo, I just felt so much better with this weapon. Now, against the bots, which is what I want to talk about first, it feels pretty good. With maxed out upgrades, that's what I have right now is the maxed out upgrades, where you get the compensator, you get the handle, I'm trying to remember what it's called right now, and the 4x scope. You're basically transforming the gun into this ultra laser sniper, pretty much, and it feels really good, even though it's fully automatic and it only does 80 damage. but it's basically the stalwart. And I've heard this before. I've seen it in the community. People are calling it the smallwart, and for good reason. Calling it the smallwart, and I can't say it. Let me say it. People are calling it the smallwart because that's basically what it is. Fast fire rate, mini shooting gun that feels exactly like the stalwart, but it's a primary, which is great because it has a decent amount of ammo. It actually has a lot more ammo than I gave it credit for in the last video. It ultimately can stand by itself for a really, really long time, and you just feel like you're wrecking everything, especially if you pair it with a sidearm with medium penetration, or the ultimatum so you can kill Hulks, or a grenade pistol, or the Holy Senator. All of these weapons give you a lot of depth to your build. That's it. I'm pretty much done with the bots. Time to move on to the bugs. Now for the bugs, things get a little bit more interesting, because on the bug side, light armor penetration already is pretty good. So bringing the Liberator Carbine actually felt phenomenal, but super natural when you were fighting the bugs. Basically because I typically bring a breaker, and all breakers are light armor penetration, but bringing this, I just felt like, for some reason, having the precise bullets, it didn't feel very far off, and I could actually kill my targets. Where, like, I always had my doubts about the Liberator against the bugs, even though that obviously was everyone's first weapon using, but the Liberator Carbine picks up the slack because of how quickly you can mow things down. Most enemies on the bug side are light, except for Chargers and Bile Titans, and Bile Spewers, which I have a bunch of problems with Bile Spewers with this, but ultimately, they could be solved with other methods, by bringing a good support weapon, or a good sidearm, or even impact grenades to just mop them up. Just so that we can stay on track, the Liberated Carbine feels amazing against the bugs because of its laser pinpoint accuracy with all of the upgrades that you can get. And because of this, it's so much easier to shoot in between the cracks for the Hive Guards, so you can actually take off their legs. And because of the DPS, it does so much damage that you can actually kill Alpha Commanders really, really fast, and it's actually super useful for those situations. Another thing that I want to bring up with the bugs is that it's actually pretty decent at killing Shriekers. Normally, you wouldn't think that a super precise weapon would be useful against Shriekers because they're flying enemies, but actually it turns out it helped me quite a bit, and it made avoiding them so much easier. The other thing I want to talk about with the bugs, kind of its spray and pray nature, that because you are shooting and damaging with volume, this weapon works best when you just hold the trigger down and just shoot at the horde. And because you're just shooting all over the place, this gun is actually extremely effective at doing that specific tactic. But that also doesn't mean that its precision isn't to be ignored either. Just because you can spray and pray with it doesn't mean that its precision doesn't help. For example, hitting a hunter, it feels way easier when you have that precision because you just point at them and it clicks and you just hit them. Where with like a breaker, I feel like if I hit a hunter, that hunter doesn't always die because it has to get hit by enough pellets. And because it has a huge spread, it makes it a little bit harder to kill. But with the Liberator Carbine, I shoot right at its center mass and it just dies. That's what it feels like. That's the difference here. And you can feel different about it. You might have a different gameplay experience, but that's what I felt. And it feels so good to use. And that's about all I have to say about the bugs. Now, when it comes to the Illuminate, this gun is extremely useful. Not only because it has a high rate of fire and that you can just mow down voteless, but it actually works really well on the flesh mobs. Because the flesh mobs require kind of a high DPS to actually take them down. And because you have a high DPS with the Liberated Carbine, in just a couple mags, you can really take one of these down. But I personally like to combine it with my grenades, which again is the sparkly ones. So it gets set on fire and you kind of mop it up at the same time. But both really work, and it genuinely feels good to fight these things, even though they are absurdly tanky. Like, they are genuinely the tankiest enemies in the game. Even more than a Bile Titan. It's kind of crazy. But they do get taken down with the Liberator Carbine pretty easily. As long as you keep your distance, of course. I personally prefer taking a jump pack against the Illuminate so that I can get away from them. The other thing I want to point out with the Illuminate is that it does work really well on Overseers, But as some of you guys pointed out in my last video, the heads of overseers are actually medium armor. And because of that, you actually don't want to shoot at their heads. You want to shoot at their chest or their arms or their legs. And if you shoot at their chest, that's what I've noticed that kills them the fastest. It takes less than a mag, and because you're firing so quickly, they're gone in like a blink of an eye. So it's super useful at killing those. And that's kind of the playstyle here. That's kind of how it feels. Because of the high precision, you can actually aim for weak spots a lot quicker. Now, this is kind of the thing with the Liberator Carbine, and it's also restating some of my points from my last two videos, but the Liberator Carbine is a little limited in comparison to some of the other weapons in our arsenal, which is probably the reason why it gets overlooked. And exactly the reason why I overlooked it. Right now, the ARs only feel bad, in my opinion, because of the sheer amount of options that we have that are just simply more unique. This weapon is being overlooked still, even with all of the praise it's been getting from the community, because of everything else you have in your arsenal, like the Purifier, the Eruptor, the crossbow. You have so many good options right now that it's taking a boring bullet gun instead of a plasma gun or an explosive or a laser gun even. But if you're a fan of the ARs and you really like the machine gun sounds and just that playstyle, this is the perfect gun for you. And also the tenderizer. That is a very good weapon too. Don't forget that one. But anyway, that's basically all I have to say. This video was kind of a weird one, mainly because I didn't actually write a script. But yeah, if you enjoyed the video, be sure to leave a like. And if you want to see more content like this, be sure to subscribe. It helps a ton, and it means a lot.